Boston College has certainly been busy in the transfer portal, but they should not be done.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black. I'm the editor of Eagle Insider, and welcome to our daily Boston College podcast. We do this 5 days a week. Hit that like and subscribe button. I think you'll enjoy this podcast. Today's show is a big one. We're going to talk a lot about the transfer portal and basketball, who made who made me a believer at the end of this game because they came back from a huge deficit to win against Miami. We'll talk about that game in our final segment. But let's first talk about the transfer portal. A lot of folks have had their own opinions on where things are at with Bill O'Brien in his first transfer portal class. As I've said before, it's very heavy on the FCS right now. You have kids from Elon and Valparaiso and a couple from Merrimack, schools that you just don't usually see getting to the FBS level. But I've also defended this because I think getting guys that have the right frame and body and skill sets that are hungry to get to this next level is a good thing. That being said, I do think Boston College still has some areas where I'm not ready to say that the guys that they have on their roster and the FCS players are going to be enough if they want to continue to build on the success that they had in 2024. Now, what positions do I still think that they need help at? First of all, we'll start from least to most. The one position I think that I would like to watch for is the tight end. They landed Zeke Moore out of FAU, and good blocking tight end, almost a fullback type. He's not going to be a Hunter Long or a Trey Berry or even Kamari Morales to an extent. He's not a huge pass catcher. Going into next year, you get Jeremiah Franklin. He's going to be totally fine. This is a guy that can get you your catches. He can get you those yards. He's been good. He continues to improve. That being said, I liked what they did with Morales and Franklin. And I'm not sure if they're ready to say that Matt Reagan is going to be that guy. He could be. He very much could be. But you might want to grab some depth there because I don't, look at the tight ends, either got really, really young guys or guys that I were with like the third team during practices last year. So tight end might be a position that they might need to still consider looking at, especially if they want a guy like Morales that can block and catch the ball, because I think they're going to need to look at that. And I'll have a name in our second segment of someone they could be looking at. Next, I think the next position they need to look at is offensive line. Now, Mitch and I, when we were on our show a couple days ago, we talked extensively about who BC should be looking, who they played, if they could play or not. More and more we watch the film. Ryan Mickhouse stands out. He's a tackle of the future. That guy, I think, is ready. But I still want to see one more body come in. Someone who could challenge, who could, work their way in. There's too many question marks right now. I think they're going to be fine. As I said on yesterday's episode, they were prediction of mine that they're going to be okay. But I still really would like to see them get one more transfer in, someone who is experienced, who in case there's an injury, they can jump right in and play. You got Jude Bowery. Jude Bowery, I love. I think he's the most talented offensive tackle they may have next year. But he's been hurt a lot. And, he's been snake bitten, and you don't want to risk losing your starting tackle and then going, who's going to play next? And then having an issue like you did against Nebraska. So that's another position I think that they really need to look at. Next, now we're getting into the more dire ones. They need to get a defensive end, an edge. You got Anya Noisi and you got Favor Bates from Merrimack, two FCS kids, but both are projects. Noisi came in from a D3 school, I believe it was, or D2, I forget what it was, but he came from some school that was not even FCS at that point, and has impressed. And he could be that guy. He definitely could be that guy, but he's raw. And you need a guy next year that's going to step up and play because you're going to have to go with Q Hutchins and somebody, whether it's Josiah Griffin or a transfer. You need somebody. And I think Q Hutchins does his best work when he has someone who takes a little bit of the pressure off of him so that he can be like the Robin to Batman. So you got these two that are raw. Will they bring in a third? I think they should. I think they should be looking for an edge rusher, someone who's polished, and someone who I think, you know, can go in and make some plays and be a good edge rusher to get some pass. That they need to spread out the ability to pass rush next year. You can't just let this year it was Donovan Ezeraku and whoever was getting double teamed. I mean, who lost a key blocker on them because they were all pushed over to Ezeraku. You need other guys out there. You need somebody that can do that. And I'm not sure Noisi and Bates are the answer. They could be. Very much could be. But, I would love to see a guy who's gone out there and done stuff, who's taken snaps at the FBS level, who has taken snaps maybe at against Power 5 opponents. That would be, I think, a key. And this is getting towards you need them. Offensive line, honestly, if they don't, it's not it's not dire. You could live with the offensive lineman you have. I just think that if you have a couple spots left, it'd be nice to get one more. And of course, our number one need is a punter. And I'm going to sing this until the cows come home because this year you had Sam Candotti, Ivan Zavenko, Liam Connor, and Sam Stone. Liam Connor, who was your kicker, your kickoff specialist, he did everything because all the other guys just couldn't do it. Now, I believe I've talked to some folks. Sam Candotti's coming back. Maybe you can figure out a way to use him like Halfley did. Halfley, I thought, did a nice job of making him a, um, those the pooch punts, the line drive punts that you want to do like when you're at like the 50. That's the kind of kicker Sam Candotti should be. You should not be asking him to boom kicks. Ivan Zvenko, I believe, was hurt. I'm not 100% sure what happened there. But you're going into next year with this whole crew again. Adding, unless something changed. I have not heard. I heard Candotti's coming back. I have not heard anything about Zvenko. And I know Liam Connor should just be a kicker. He should not be punting. And Sam Stone, not sure. But you're bringing in Andy Quinn, the kid from Ireland. And you have to bring in somebody else. You cannot go into next year with one new face. And it's a freshman from Ireland. No, you need more. And I think there'll be some. In our second segment, I'm going to talk about some names to watch. I'm going to talk about who I think these positional some names that you might want to look for, and I'll explain all that in just a moment. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so much for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. It's thrilling. Give me those Zay Flower touchdowns. I will go for it every single time. And I've been fading on the Patriots, and I don't know what I'm going to do on this Sunday. I think they're only a 1.5 underdog, but Josh Allen is not going to play. Well, maybe you have your thoughts. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Locked on Boston College, AJ Black here, editor of Eagle Insider. And if you like this podcast, let me recommend to you the Locked On College Football podcast with Spencer McLaughlin. With so much going on with the playoffs, what a crazy game that Texas Arizona State game was. They're going to be talking about all of that and everything else going on in college football. So check that out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, you're looking at the needs. of this team, and the dead period of visitors is over. So visitors can come back on campus. So expect some new names to pop up. And I gave you some positions I think BC is still looking at. Now, for the folks out there yelling about linebackers and yelling about whatever you think that they need, there's still the chance that they could. I don't see them putting an effort on it. The other position I failed to mention that I think they still are looking at is wide receiver. I think there are some wide receivers out there that they're looking at. Now, who are some names that they could be looking at? One name I want to throw out there, and it does nothing to help with the FCS look that everyone is complaining about, is tight end Max Minnie of Idaho. Now, Idaho is an FCS school, and Max Minnie is a tight end. I think he is a junior next year. He's 6'5", so big kid. I think he had like 10 catches last year, but I've heard good things about him. I've heard he's got some really good interest and someone that Boston College is definitely looking at. So he could be someone, a tight end from Idaho. I think that would be a good get for Boston College. It doesn't fit your. Hopefully, they're going to get some Power 4 guys, but maybe that's someone that they look at. In terms of edge rushers, I mentioned before Obinna Onwuka of West Virginia. I'm not sure he fits what they need right now. Like, I'd love to get Boozie's younger brother here. Obviously, that'd be great. But, you already got two projects at defensive end that are bringing in depth. Onwuka hasn't played either. So I don't think he fits what they're doing. So I'm laying off a little bit on that one. Now, one name that I would love to see BC go after, and someone I believe that they would have interest in, is AJ Hoffler of Clemson. Now, Hoffler is someone who I guessing is going to get some more, attention from other schools because I think he's very talented. He is he's a rising junior. He had 13 tackles. He's 6'4", 255 pounds. He was looked at by BC when they first went after him, and I think when you're looking for a high end guy, he's a 4-star. He went to Woodward Academy, which is a great football program down in Georgia. He fits a lot of those needs. Will BC be able to, if they are really interested in finding a guy that's a little bit more polished? He's going to be a junior. He's played at Clemson for 2 years. This might be a guy that you go for. This might be a guy that fits a big need, and you could sell him on Donovan Azaraku. You could say, hey, look at what we did here. Here's a guy that had 2.5 sacks last year. He has 16 and a half, and he's All-American this year. Why don't you come play here? It doesn't seem like a huge pitch, a hard pitch to make, but one that makes a lot of sense. So AJ Hoffler is one I would keep an eye on. Maybe, I'm not sure. That I'm waiting to see where visits go, and there's probably going to be more and more new offers going out, but he's someone. And remember, for BC, I'm thinking that most of the guys they're going to get, I would guess all of them, would be before the start of the spring semester. And spring semester, I think it's like the 13th or 14th. So it's coming up in a couple weeks. They got to get them on campus before they start that because you want them for spring practice. They got to be enrolled. So they have to do that. So that is something to watch for. The one guy that they just brought in, a defensive tackle, Mike Bumpus from Brown, he's not coming until the summer. So you have to wait on that one. But AJ Hoffler, that was one that I was like, maybe he could be someone that they look at. In terms of other defensive ends, another one that I like, this next one kind of dovetails something that you heard in the news. If you were listening to the news about 2 or 3 days ago after the Fenway Bowl, Jim Mora Jr., the head coach of UConn, was complaining about players being tampered with. And one within, like, he was saying that there's players being tampered with and they're losing, they're going to go after him or whatever. And I was like, good luck, because I don't know if there's any teeth to anything that's going on in this world, but hey, Jim Mora wants to fight that battle, go for it. The name that came up really quick I was like, oh man, if BC could land this kid and start a huge war with UConn about this, man, I'm all in on that. And that is Price Yates, one of their star defensive edges. This is a kid from Texas who, yeah, maybe he wants to go play closer to Texas. Maybe that's going to be the case. But play with me here. Maybe this is a kid that he's what 6'4", 265 pounds. He's got good size. Played for a good defense. Had 3.5 sacks this year. He had 4.5 sacks last year, so he's got 8 in the last 2 years. Maybe he wants to play for a P4 school, and a lot of these other schools have already buying guys. This is where BC kind of splurges and goes for a guy. Nothing wrong getting a guy from UConn that's still, it's not Power 4, but it's FBS this time. And I'm gonna tell you, this kid's probably gonna get some big offers. So maybe he's a bit more of a reach. But with BC potentially playing UConn next year, it'd be really funny if one of the guys that Mora was complaining that people are tampering with ends up in Chestnut Hill. So he's another one, a guy with experience, a guy who has good pass rushing technique. That might be someone that you might want to watch for. Now, I mentioned the offensive line as well, and you're looking at like who could Boston College go for here? And this one is a little bit more tricky because it seems like there isn't a lot going on at the offensive line. The staff is looking at different players. They're kind of following along. But, recently, if you're going for someone just to fill out depth, Kai Greer, who went to Georgia Tech, he's a former 4-star offensive tackle out of Marvin Ridge, Virginia. He was someone BC looked at heavily last year. Just entered the portal yesterday. He's starting to get some offers. I think Miami and Stanford and Liberty have all offered him. He's someone you could be looking at. There's some power group of 4 FCS schools that are also looking. They're looking at. There's an offensive lineman that from like South Dakota that they could look at. But the offensive line isn't as clear. Now, kicking and punters, that's the one everyone wants to look at. And I think they're in good shape with one. And that name, it feels like this is going to be funny, is Seamus Florio of Yale. This is someone I would watch for. I'm not sure where they're at with this kid, but he, is good at pinning and kicking directionally. So, hopefully this would, prevent the kicks off the side of the foot thing that was killing BC all year. Not the biggest leg, but honestly, beggars can't be choosers right now. I'll take a kid that can just kick it straight at this point. And that's what he can do. He played for Yale last year. I think he's averaging about 37, 38 yards per punt. Maybe you work with him and maybe you don't ruin him. Don't ruin him. But maybe if that's a kid that you could bring in, with a lot of these Ivy schools, he's already played, 4 years. He's got, he's graduated, played 3 years, sat 1. He's got 1 more year of eligibility left. He could be someone BC could be looking at. That's another name that I would be intrigued in. And they would obviously give you your Irish punting tandem between him and Quinn. Seamus and Andy. You would be perfect for Boston College, right? Now, these are just some names. And obviously, there's lots going on behind the scenes. The staff is very quiet about this. They are not going to tell me or lots of other media members anything because it's hard enough to get players to come to Boston College given the situations that are in the world NIL wise. So they're not going to show their cards, and hopefully we'll get more information as this week progresses. Now, in our final segment, basketball. Good news, and it looked bad. We'll get into why in just a moment. Attending the new 12-game team college football playoff games is an incredible experience that brings fans together like never before. I remember the excitement of past playoff games and can't wait to make new memories with the updated format and extra teams involved. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I used Game Time Picks to find tickets for an upcoming Boston College game. Browsing through the deals was a breeze, and I found great value in all kinds of seats around the venue. The Super Deal in particular stood out as the best value of the event. I love that I could see the seat views before buying, and that app shows the total cost upfront with no surprise fees at checkouts. Plus, the on-time ticket delivery and lowest price guarantees gave me complete peace of mind. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black, and I am here to tell you guys, if you have not done so already, join our Eagles Nest subtext program. It is a way to get in touch with me directly. If you have questions, you want to tell me anything you want to. I mean, I've been talking to some of our fans constantly on this app. It's great. You can try it out for free for the first month. Bill O'Brien Monster. Try that code. You'll check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. And also check out Locked On ACC. Kenton Gibbs and Alex Dono. I'm sure they've got a lot to talk about. Check them out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Now, basketball played against Miami on New Year's Day. And BC got a good they had a great chance to really surprise some people and get their first win. But what surprised me the most was they're playing against a Miami team that did not have Jim Laranga because he left because he was done with the NIL thing, which I think is rich coming from a guy coaching at Miami. And Nigel Peck, their leading guard, was also out. And what surprised me was how absolutely flat Boston College came out in this game. They were down by like 15 points early in this game. They looked completely lost. I think they actually fell to behind like 21 at one point. And all of it, immediately, social media just turned into a cesspool of just bashing Earl Grant. I mean, I don't blame them. I mean, when you play at home and that's how you come out against a team that's 4-8 and you look completely like unprepared or flat and just not ready to play, they go into half, they're down by 12 points. And, they cut the lead down. That's good. But I think a lot of people are skeptical. Like, you're going, okay, 12 points. We've watched this before. We watch teams just pull away. But I want to give credit to Earl Graham. And I want to give credit to this roster for not only coming back, but absolutely spanking Miami in that second half. They go on to win by 10 points. Donald Hand hits a three-pointer to put BC up later in the second half. And then they just put the pedal to the metal. You had Chad Venning with 17 points. You had Donald Hand, obviously, he's very good and doing very well. But Elijah Strong had 11 in the second half, and Josh Beadle had 13 points. So this looked like every BC game that you expected, like where things are just falling apart. And people were talking online, like, is Earl Grant going to make it past next week? But hey, they came back. This took guts. Like, when you start off and you're down by that much, I mean, it was like 34-10 or 13 at one point, and you're able to muster up the will to come back. It says something about your roster. And Earl Grant, after the game, credited his bench. I mean, there's something to be said there. Jaden Hastings, I thought, looked really good. It was a tough game. Miami's terrible. I gotta say that, right? Like, that's why I think a lot of people were really negative about this at first. Was like, Miami's really bad, really bad, and BC right now is the worst team in Power 4, Power 5 because they count the A10 in this, or the Big E, excuse me. They, they're the bottom. So hopefully this will get them out of the bottom. Next up on their list is Georgia Tech. Now, Georgia Tech, is a team BC has beaten in the past under Earl Grant. They're 7-7. Will they be on Saturday? They're going to play them on Saturday. Can BC build some momentum here? Are they able to get this going? I'm interested to see. At least this game got me interested because, as I said 2 weeks ago, and some of you got on me for it, I say this team is so bad, or I had no faith in this team that I thought there was a potential they don't win an ACC game. But luckily for BC this year, the ACC is really bad. You have a couple teams at the top, and then it's a lot of chances for BC. Like, if you can get something going, And there's pieces here where it's not out of the realm of possibility that it could happen. Maybe you could put together something like an NIT run. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I'm not saying I believe it happens. I'm just saying it could happen. Like Donald Hand, he was the ACC Player of the Week last week. He had what did he have? 30 points in that game against FDU. Not bad. I like Fred Payne. Fred Payne seems like he's going to be a good player. Jade Hastings is like energy in a bottle, and when you get Elijah Strong going, he's pretty good. And then Dion Brown is starting to get a little better. So maybe if they're starting to take some steps, Georgia Tech isn't all that great either. Could they beat them and be 2-2 in the ACC? Could happen. But I'm still skeptical. But at least a win against Miami was a step in the right direction. Where this program goes from here, we'll have to wait and see. On tomorrow's show, we'll have more talk about everything transfer portal related. Talk a little bit about football, talk basketball if there's anything new going on there. And we'll have it all covered here on Locked On Boston College. This is AJ Black. Follow me on Twitter at AJ Black247. Check me out on Eagle Insider. We have some great work over there with great writers. Hopefully you have become a subscriber. If you have not done so, go check it out. It's 30% off right now. And I hope to see you guys all again soon for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.